edition of VCTV. We are excited because not only are we here to celebrate a fun, exciting early Halloween, but we've got a very fun and very close to our heart topic to talk about, and that is fintech, finance, banking, blockchain, and digital currencies. What's all happening in this space? What's not happening? As we know that this industry changes not just minute by minute, not day by day, but millisecond by millisecond. So much has happened, so much has changed as we've seen PayPal start to get into the cryptocurrency and digital currency space. We've got JPM or JP Morgan getting their JPM coin a little active, a little mysterious on it, goes into the Halloween effect today. We've got more and more institutions getting involved. We also have big banks that said something and then backed away. What is that all about? We've also got a new bank. So congratulations to Caitlin Long and her team on their recent bank charter and making 2 banks here in the United States that are going to be focused and on the digital currency space. And we also had news come out of India, which we may get into today, that we're supposed to see 22 new banking and ATM locations pop up across the country this year, before the end of the year, offering both traditional and digital currency services in tandem, expanding to even 4x that number. So over 100 different locations by the end of 2022. This is huge news going into the end of the year. We also have Coinbase that said, hey, let's get back into the game as well. And let's throw a Visa debit card out to all users in the United States, give them some rewards, have a little fun, and let them get spending on digital currencies following, again, PayPal's news. So tons to talk about. We might even be visited by a special crypto guest, and I'll leave it at that on this fun Hallows Eve edition of VCTV. And before we get started, a big thank you to you, our audience, for tuning in and dealing with my puns and jokes today. We do appreciate it. If you like what you hear, click subscribe. Do reach out if you'd like to be on a show like today, like our fellow investors, to share your thoughts and insights dealing with my puns and about different technologies, industries, and regions around the world. Also, as entrepreneurs, there is a stage for you here at VCTV to get up and pitch us as investors focused on your industry, to learn more about your company, product, and service, get feedback, build relationships with us, and to get exposure to our live audience. Do reach out to the team and or myself. Love to find the right spot for you. With that, a big thank you to the LATOKEN team and to Emmanuel, along with Maria, for making VCTV possible every single day. With that, happy Halloween. Let's get started. First up, James, welcome back to the show. It's a pleasure to see you again. A little intro, a little background for everybody.
Hi, Kyle. Thank you for having me on. As always, a pleasure and to learn, what you think is going on, and your guests are always interesting and educational. So I'm James Haft. I started Pal Capital in 1996 to focus on helping businesses that were going to benefit from the digitization of information. In 1996, everyone said, that's crazy, that's not a business. And today, everyone says, that's crazy, that's every business. And so, this is, for 30 years, was an investment banker focusing on emerging markets and creating liquidity and business models for people who held assets and opportunities that weren't generally available to the mass investor and to the retail and institutional investors globally because of legal or jurisdictional or tax or just access reasons. And so that's morphed from taking the first company in China public on the New York Stock Exchange through a tokenized concept in 1989 to today looking at crypto platforms and distributed ledger and the new digital economy and creating liquidity strategies and ways for the general public to be involved in the pure alpha of what's going on right now.
Love it. And welcome back. So much to talk more about that as we've had discussions previously rolling under the pre-show as well. And by the way, to our audience, if you don't think great things happen here on VCTV in terms of connections, James and Jose, Gary and I were just talking pre-show about some of the great connections that they have made with some of our viewers. So do not hesitate to reach out to us. Again, just make sure you add context where you met us or what you heard so that we can have a good conversation. With that, Jose, welcome back. Thank you, James. A little intro, a little background for everybody, Jose.
Thank you, Carl. Happy to be here once more, and really looking forward to it. So I'm Jose Grasa. I've been an entrepreneur now for 40 years. I'm a finance guy. I've been all my life working in finance, also including for some multi-billion-dollar company, including a US multi-billion-dollar company in the 90s, 80s. And eventually, I rolled in as a business angel after my first exit, more or less in 1994. And after that, being a business angel for 26 years, I rolled in as a VC for a few years, and then I decided that I wanted to go back to become an entrepreneur. And I've been hopping on, hopping off between business angel, entrepreneur, and VC. The issue is that I like all of the three characters, but being an entrepreneur for me has a special taste that drives me every day. And today, I've been in the fintech industry since the year of 2000, investing quite some sums of money in that area. And it evolved eventually into what we call the generation of a social market economy. And that's what I'm investing in today. BizMoney is a social market economy that we are trying to bring to the audience. And I'm looking out for anything that can be an add-on to our business today, and also willing to invest in those ventures that can be an add-on to the BizMoney concept.
Love it. You're calling it out what you're looking for. Audience, pay attention, stay tuned. Last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, a special Halloween guest in real form, not artificial intelligence form. He is here, Mr. Gary Fowler.
I got to tell you, Kyle, you know, it's nice seeing your face, and I see the pumpkin smiling behind you. It's great. Happy Halloween, Kyle.
Happy Halloween. Happy Halloween.
As long as it's not like the movie. Trick or treat, I'm home.
Trick or treat.
You know, my name is Gary Fowler, and I'm an entrepreneur. I've done 16 companies. I write a little bit. I've written now 84 articles in the last year. And I have a couple of shows that I do, and I've created, been involved in 2 unicorns. So co-founded a company and on the original management team at Click Software out of Haifa. I love AI, you know, and so my new mantra is that, you know, AI is the electricity, data is the fuel, but 5G is the turbocharger. And so if we look at it, that's really where our world is. And so whether it's fintech or any vertical market, we need to adapt or die. And that was my presentation today or yesterday to some of the wealthiest folks in Europe was do or die for the digital transformation. And so I'm excited to be here, excited to see my friend Kyle, Jose, James, great to see you, and happy Halloween.
Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. Super excited to dive into today's topic, as you all are experts in this, either directly or indirectly through intersecting technologies, as Gary mentioned, around artificial intelligence, data, and even 5G. Not only are buzzwords, but do really play a role impactfully in these areas. When we look at emerging markets, when we look at expanding beyond our central cities, how these technologies will play a role, even in furthermore on the autonomy side, as we look to streamline some of our processes on the business, but also in our personal lives as well. So James, let's kick it off with you. Where are you seeing things currently around fintech, blockchain, and digital currencies? And we'll include banking and payments and all that, but we'll just for today's reference, refer to those 3. So turn it over to you.
Well, I mean, I see 2 big trends that seem like, you know, fractals are popping up everywhere. The first one is gamification of the interfaces. And the second one is decentralization and moving the power out to the community and to the individuals. And so, you know, what's happened is that, this has been happening pretty consistently over the last 20 years, is that if you look at how people are interacting with games and with entertainment, and then move over to how that's affecting the way that you're doing the day-to-day transactions that you're handling, whether it's, with your bank or with your phone company, et cetera, that more and more of the ways that you're actually interacting, the ways you're making payment, the way that they're getting your attention to upsell you are all related to gamification and really to understanding that they're just competing for the attention, on your screen. And then decentralization, is just a force that's ripping through the way software was eating the world in the 2000s. I think decentralization is eating the world over the next 10 years, and that people are realizing they have alternatives to the centralized platforms that they've been told were required. I mean, even as basic as lawyer, banker, accountant being needed for a transaction, which isn't necessarily the case anymore. And that's going down to what is currency, what is value, and how do we transact it, how do I hold it, how do I store it, and how do I invest it, are all changing in ways where the power is moving, to the individual.
Which is a very great point. I mean, the gamification side, that was definitely a huge piece of social and what led into the social revolution. So changing us from Web 2 to Web 3 in some cases. And the decentralization, you're absolutely right. We've talked about it previously together here, both on the air on VCTV and also off the air as well, of why this is so important, that distributed technologies and decentralization will play a key role in our next 10 years. So you're spot on, James. Jose, to you, same question. What are you seeing currently happening as well in these areas?
So I had a meeting before the show today, and which touched this point. And what I was trying to explain, which I'm going to repeat now, is the following. Today, millennials, account for more or less 70% of the buying power. So individual-wise, they are less wealthy than the baby boomers, but the amount of baby boomers combined have less buying power than the whole millennial community. Now, in the next 5 years, and this is important that we understand this before we go into the next topic. In the next 5 years, millennials will take over more or less from Generation X. I mean, they start getting into real command. And Generation X is going to move into the baby boomer sphere, right? And the latest, youngest generation, is coming up more or less. So what is so important between these generations? I think that's the most important thing for us to understand what will be the differences in the coming, let's say, 10 years. So the most important is that the millennial generation is the generation that doesn't want to be stuck in one place. They want to go around. They want to have freedom. They want to have their own will. Everything is more individual. It's like a sphere around them. They are, it's a generation that got everything more or less free of charge. So they don't like, they get things that, and they like very fast things, but essentially they don't like to be governed. So if you look at, we did a very thorough research on these generations to understand how we're going to position ourselves. If you understand that, then it's also easy to understand that definitely one thing will change, which is going from fiat money, which is already more or less the case, into crypto, and from crypto into a digital currency, either if it's fully decentralized or centralized by, let's say, state banks or whatever it is. That's one thing which will change a lot. And the other thing that I see is what I call, and I think that's something it's starting now, we are just pioneers in that area, is what I call business inclusion. And why business inclusion? Because we have 430 million people permanently unemployed, and probably another 400 or 500 million will be added on in the X amount of years, because they will get out of their jobs due to a lot of bunch of robotization, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and a lot of stuff that is done for them. So the millennial generation is the generation that will adopt massively a lot of things done for them that they don't want to do, and they want to become the decision maker. What we are trying to do here, so I want to leave two topics, is one is getting them into this business inclusion to solve part of these unemployed, and the second thing is getting them, let's say, an offer that they want to see in their lives. And that's where I see it.
Very interesting. All right, we're definitely coming back. I see James has already got some ideas working there. Gary, to you, same question. What are you currently seeing in these areas that may be changing as well?
And so you're talking about banking, fintech, et cetera.
Banking, yeah, fintech, decentralization, banking, payments. Yep.
I mean, so look at it today. So we've got, we talk about this, the pandemic, and, here we are 9 months into it, 8 months into it. But in reality, we've got another probably year and a half or 2 years to ride through it. So the fundamental changes, I mean, banking is not what it used to be. You don't go into the bank and visit, at least here in the banks in the States that I have. They're taking you in the drive-through windows. You don't have that personalized banking. But at the same time, look at the changes taking place, all the artificial and intelligence and machine learning, digital banking, right? I mean, digital banking is dramatically up. The whole idea of hyper-personalization, how do we make that banking experience closer to each and every one of us? How do we individualize it? And I'll give you some examples based on your spending patterns. How can I produce certain products for you and give you those kind of offers so they're right in touch with what you're doing? How do I make loans smoother? The application processes loans rather than taking a week. My bank, not the last loan, I go in and use loans for credit to build credit up and then pay them off. But it's the situation with getting a loan. So my last loan I got in, actually 2 loans ago, I got it in 15 minutes. So streamlining the process. It shouldn't be as long as it is. It doesn't need people to look at it if you got the facts in front of you. Regulation and compliance to make sure that, imagine AI technologies to make sure that they're fully compliant with all the regulations. And, if it's FATCA and you're outside of the US, or compliance for certain partners having the right kind of backgrounds, making sure for checks that's in place. Robotic process automation to automate those processes that don't need a human touch. Right? There's a lot of tasks within a bank today that don't need to have the human touch. So let's go down through and automate it. I just had a conversation with the RPA person for PwC, right? And this is a revolution that's taken place in the banking side. And then of course, blockchain and crypto and decentralization. We got shocked into this pandemic of doing things dramatically differently and digitally transforming. All vertical markets, literally all verticals need to transform. Banking is not what it was a year ago, right? Where I go in, you don't shake the banker's hand anymore and talk about doing a deal. Those days are gone. The days are, how can we use the available data so we can make some more intelligent decisions? Not smart, but intelligent decisions. And the last thing, and we've talked about this before, is I got a thing about paycheck distribution. If I earn the money, why can't I get it when I earn it? You don't shake the banker's hand anymore and talk about doing a deal. Those days are gone. The days exactly. Are, how can we use the available data so we can make some more intelligent decisions? Not smart, but intelligent decisions.
Well, it looks like James, you might have our feed on there, so we might have an echo effect. But
sorry.
All good, guys. It's Friday. No stress.
I was going to say that person was exactly what I would say.
I think you were remarking how intelligent he sounded.
I thought, man, that's amazing. A twin.
That guy's really
looking
smart.
at the lips to see who was doing it because I was going to say they hit the jackpot.
It was the digital doppelganger.
Exactly.
The twin. Smart and good looking.
And I was looking behind you, Kyle, to see what those pumpkins are. A little something I need to know about.
I love it. So thank you so much, Gary. I want to switch real quick. James, to you, as you had a point, I know you wanted to comment further on something Jose said.
Interesting, yeah, and it goes to both of them. It's brief. Jose, you said what's different about the millennials. By the way, I have a son who's 19. I have another who's 24. So I'm deep in that with some personal experience, which is really interesting. But I don't think it's what's different. I actually think it's what's the same. And what's changed, because one of my whole concepts, everything's fractals. It's all the same stuff. From the beginning of time, people have been the same, had the same needs. And it's just, so what's changing isn't the people or what they look, it's how they prioritize things and what's their tolerance level for different things, right? So what's your tolerance for bad governance, right? What's your tolerance for taxation without representation? I remember there was a revolution around that at some point, right? And so, I think that that's what's happening right now is a shifting of the priorities and tolerances, because nobody ever liked being governed, right? So.
Yeah, I fully agree on that with you, James. It's a different way of explaining it, but at the end it comes up to that point. I definitely underwrite that.
Because I look for the common things. I look for the things people need to do the same things. They have the same, the same Maslow's pyramid, the same, hierarchy of needs. And what's happening is technology. People they reverse the causal arrow, right? They get it backwards, and so people think the technology is driving change, but it's not. Human needs and desires are driving change. Technology is a lubricant that allows you to get there when you couldn't have gotten there before, because now you can get through, you can pass through the ways that you were being governed, the way that you were being controlled. You can now shift through them or around them in ways that you couldn't do previously with technology.
Well, we're seeing technology really take an effect here again in 2020, but really this is something that's been the underpinning for the past decade plus, right? I mean, Gary talks about artificial intelligence as he's told us. I mean, this is technology we've had in the works for decades, and finally it's coming to fruition that we can start using it. We are start seeing opportunities and use cases for it to work. And to your point, James, it's becoming that right time where technology, the use cases are coming together, and we're starting to see how this will apply to us. And Adrian, to you, what are you seeing as the current state of fintech along with banking, payments, and blockchain as a whole currently today?
This will become very soon like this. It's not like 100 dirhams, 500 euros, just that there will be collectibles. And because also the viruses can be transmitted to, this could be $100 or something like that. Not necessarily that dirhams are not good, they are very good. But we'll have a lot of collectibles over the next few years. I'm seeing the governments are looking at issuing the digital currencies. The central banks are doing that. Buying crypto will go mainstream. Look at what PayPal is doing. Just that I believe you will buy more like a CFD than the crypto itself, because you will not be able to move it. And yesterday I attended some panels to Coin Agenda, which is a big event, and there were some brainstorming sessions. And one of the idea was that if the institutional money is buying Bitcoin, maybe soon we will run out of Bitcoins in the market, because they are pumping huge amounts of money. So this is what I'm seeing.
So James, anything to add? I'm seeing you shaking your head as well.
I mean, yeah, that's, I agree. I also think that we're in this intermediate. Everyone always thinks that where they are right now is somewhere, and that the ship has passed. The reality is humanity doesn't really realize things until after it's already happened. And so we're very early in this crypto thing. And I think that I would like people to consider broadening the concept. It's not really crypto in the future. It's just digitized value and digitized information being fungible and tradable with each other, instantaneously without friction, in a way where you can have truth without trusting. So you don't need intermediaries. Because I think that, you get focused on crypto, because we pay so much attention to money, because that's how we're wired right now. But the reality is that we're going to learn that there's so much more that's valuable other than money, right? Your attention is going to be more valuable than money in the future. And so I think we need to broaden how we consider this in the future.
And you're bringing up a great point. We talked a little bit about this yesterday around entertainment and the future of entertainment, and how it's not, as digital currencies play a role, it's not just about the money, it's also about how tokenization can play a major impactful role around that with digital goods and collectibles. As we had Robbie on speaking to us about what he was doing with F1 Delta and some of the other, the Sandbox and some of the other games that he's a part of as well. So shifting gears, and now we've got the current state. Where do you see things going? So looking at 2021, again, 2020 we know changed everything for these industries. Gary's mentioned this on how he's interacting or not interacting with certain banks today. James, Jose, yourself mentioning this around what you're seeing from your side of being on the fintech side properly, and then Adrian as well with his collectibles. But as we look towards this next year, 2020 set the foundation. Where do we go from here? Do we build off of it? Do we mess it up? Or, do we kind of shake our way through it? What does it look like on the other side? So from each of you, what is your prediction over the next year, where we go in the future of fintech, blockchain, and then banking and payments as a whole? And Adrian, let's come back to you to start. Where do we see things going in the next year? End of 2021, where are we with these industries?
Yesterday I wanted to be smart, and in a panel with one of the co-founders of Ethereum, I asked which is the biggest opportunity in the Ethereum space in 2021. I said I wanted to look smart, and the answer was it was expected, but somehow I wanted something else, like a shortcut. The answer was you have to study as much possible about this new industry and indoctrinate yourself with everything is new. So we can't avoid that. What I'm seeing as a huge tendency is that, as you said earlier, more and more things and assets and even other types of collectibles will come to the digital space. And it's not necessarily like everything will be tokenized. By this tokenization element will be everywhere. Will be like the power, like Wi-Fi, and as Gary says, artificial intelligence is like electricity. And I liked very much this quote. So this is what I'm seeing, and the opportunities are in this direction.
Well, we'll toss the pumpkin to Gary then on that case. With that, as to Gary, where is your prediction for 2021? What do you see happening, whether it be with AI intersecting in these, more personalization? I'm trying my hardest to be serious about this question and not laugh with you.
Toss the pumpkin.
It's really tough. But where do you see this
But you
going?
started off with toss some pumpkin to you.
I mean, it's
I wouldn't be
Halloween's
serious.
Eve.
At least we're not bobbing for apples.
Well, we got a full day here on VCTV. You never know. We may got a whole Halloween party going on. But seriously, to you, I mean, I love it. Seriously, to you, where do you think you see this going? I mean, 2021, do we continue seeing more adoption of personalization financial tools? Do we see more financing and automation around the enterprise and business processes? Do you see fintech evolving, or is it stay flat, which is a real possibility, right? Banking apps don't evolve.
I mean, my presentation yesterday was called Do or Die. So if they don't transform, they will die, because this world has dramatically shifted. And if we don't respond to the customer's demands and make it more personal, so they want to deal with us, they just won't do it. So products need to evolve. The degree that we understand the data and the customers needs to evolve. And the robotic process automation that I talked about earlier needs to evolve, because we need to reduce cost and increase the level of service. So AI will be involved literally across the board. And the companies, the banks that are hesitant or sitting on their hands and thinking about doing the old way will just purely not be around. Because we've got, as I said, we've got 1.5 years, 2 years, maybe more, of going through this pandemic. It's not over yet. And the good news is humanity has been responding accordingly. And the good news is we've shifted. The great news is that we do have the opportunity, not like in 1918, we do have this virtual world. We can still do business and thrive. And, dealing with remote employees, banks have employees in their loan departments sometimes today remote. Dealing with those remote workers, making sure security's there. Cybersecurity, as more and more data comes out, cyber security becomes paramount. How to be able to thwart the bad guys so they don't go in and steal your money, right? And so all of the above, Kyle, this is like, we've rapidly moved forward like no time in history. I mean, I talk about the beginning of the 20th century. I mean, it's basically the same. It's funny because, it's like then. I read this one caption. This was exactly at that time talking about Henry Ford and the cars. And they said, why would I buy a car when I know that my horse is there? My horse eats hay. I know my horse is in the barn and it gets me to where I want to go. Well, that's kind of like where the banks are today. If they go back on their laurels, traditionally they were very community oriented. Very high net worth individuals would invest in banks and start them. And it would be, let's shake hands and cut a deal. Those days are gone for now. So
Absolutely.
adapt or die.
So Gary, I totally agree with what you're saying. And I think it's the popular, it's the popular perception right now. But I think your example at the end actually shows that you're not going far enough in your analysis of what the answer is to the banks, right? So everyone assumes the future will look like the present is an indicator of the future, but it's really not. We're not tethered by the reality of today and the future. And so I do think we're at that buggy whip / do I invest in oil at the turn of the 19th century or not, right? But I think that the context is to me is a little different. I don't think that the corporation as the methodology of doing business is going to survive into the future. Now, not next year, maybe 5 years is too soon, but I think the whole premise of the artificial person that can exist under the law, that is the way that we aggregate to do enterprise together, I think may have played its course. Right? I mean, this is essentially the same thing they were doing in 1780, standing on a block in front of where the New York Stock Exchange is now, holding up shares to try and sell pieces of a ship, right? And I think that we're getting to the point where you no longer need that intermediary. And the place that the banks are missing, like look at JP Morgan, one of my least favorite companies in the world, all right? But look at JP Morgan, all right? They were like, Bitcoin is a fraud. And while they're saying Bitcoin's a fraud, they're holding a conference in California about Bitcoin, and they're buying Bitcoin as fast as they can because they need to build up their treasury before the price goes up. And now they just announced, hey, we have a business that has profitable with hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue around blockchain. Well, guess what? They couldn't have started that yesterday, right? So what's happening right now is that the ground is shifting, it's moving. Right? And in the future, I don't think banks are really necessary, right? Banks are only necessary if we have fiat and fractional investing. Something else may exist to hold your assets. There may be some other platforms, but they may not even be, they may not be banks, but they might not even be corporations.
I mean, the other thing is you didn't mention is that data is of value. So my data is worth money too. And data could be a currency that we haven't even talked about or even touched upon. What's the value of your data as a human to that other person?
I'm going to jump to the screen and hug you. Yes. Yes.
Jose, do you have real quick? Yeah. Sorry, James, 1 second. Jose, I saw you on mute. We heard everyone's voices echo through it. So I'm gonna pause everyone to give you a moment so we at least get the video back on track. But go ahead if you have a further comment on that.
I want to pick up on what Gary said, which makes a lot of sense. Essentially, also what James said is the issue. The problem is like this: if you would look in the past and you would look at the Far West, the banker would know everybody in the town, right? And he would give you the money based on your the experience he had with you. Today, we are just a number. If you go to a bank today, you're just a number. Nobody cares about you really. And it's the same with your telecom company. You're also a number, right? And if I even, some of the things that really annoys me, not even with banks, is that a lot of these big companies today, if I want to talk to somebody, right, there's nobody to talk to. You need to leave an email. You never know when you get an answer, or you get into a chat bot, which is automatic. So it's so unpersonal. You don't get your problem solved, right? But you are the consumer. That service is made for you. So I think, and will happen, this millennial generation, right, it's either two things will happen. Either people change, or these guys, when they come to power, they will move it out. They will say, we have enough of this. Now we're going to do it our way, and it will be different, and we are not a number anymore. And that's what I see the shift. Today, a lot of services, very, very big companies, nothing against them, but you're just a simple number. You don't get your stuff solved. And that's where I see that a lot of stuff will change in the future. So if you are a number, you know, why are you going and put your cash there or buying there or doing anything there? You know, you could as well put it anywhere else.
You're right. You're right. But the thing is, right now you've moved from the personal banking to you're a number, but you're a number with all this data attached that you didn't agree, that a lot of it's wrong, that a lot of it is actually prejudiced against you and makes no sense, but is put there for the benefit of the platform that you're trying to extract value from. And the next step is to be a number, but to do truth without trusting, where you can have a system where you can get rid of that filter of prejudicial information that's trying to make you subservient to the system and enabling you to turn around and work the system for your benefit, where you no longer have to play in their game, right? The systems are built so that you have to bend your behavior to fit into the centralized systems pattern. Otherwise, you're excluded, right? And in the future, we're going to be able to turn that around, and you'll be able to opt into systems where you no longer have to start with that prejudice, where it doesn't matter if you're a woman or Black or Hispanic, right? Where you'll be able to basically come in, a number is good, not bad, because my number is just based on my performance and on my avatar, not necessarily on your prejudice against me.
Yes, and James, I would also like to say the following, that not being a number anymore in the future, right? The way you look at it also means that you can have those things around you. And looking at Gary, you know, why are people not getting paid for their data? You know, they're using our data. You know, they are enriching themselves with entertainment, which we are basically the show people, and without getting paid for anything. So everybody should get a piece of the pie from their richdom. So what do you think about that, Gary?
From my perspective, I mean, it's, you know, the problem is, I mean, we use Google, right? And so Google's mentality, I suspect, is say they're giving us a service. So they're, you know, our paying for the services using our data. But we don't think about it. I mean, every time you use Google or Facebook, right? It's not free. It's just, it's different. So in terms of, you know, so Jose, in terms of, I think it should be more equitable in terms of what our data is worth. If they're going to use it, it should be more equitable, evenly split. But many people won't like it because it's going to reduce not everybody's data is going to be valued at the same way. It's going to change things. It won't be as open from my perspective as it is today. And that's where the challenge is. We're so used to having these things we think are free, they're not.
Mm-hmm.
So I have investments in companies. Why am I?
Make sure you close the LATOKEN website.
I did. I'm not in. I did everything I was supposed to, I think.
Or YouTube?
I think it was me.
It's
Can you
okay.
hear me now? Okay.
I'm
So
sorry.
I have investments in companies that treat data and value the same in a wallet. So I have one specifically called MetaMe, which I really love, the entrepreneur in the company. And basically it's a wallet that goes onto the internet and scrapes all the graphs and tells you what everyone thinks about you. All the information from Google, from Yahoo, from Apple, from for every site that your FICO score, everything that's out there, and comes back and gives you back your own graph, and then enables you to actually segregate that information into different classes, and then allows other parties, mostly marketers, to come in and say, okay, I need 10,000 women who drive white cars and light convertibles, right? And then they make a bid to the audience that holds the wallets and says, who would like to opt in to this program, because Audi's willing to pay you $100 if you do these 4 things. And we'll tell you how your data is used, we'll protect your data, and we'll shut them off once they've gotten through what you've agreed to do with them. And so now what you have is a wallet that enables you to earn money for your information, and that you're in control of your information. This is the own your own data movement, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that goes where Gary's talking about. This is an implementation of that vision. I think it's here now, and I think it's going to become that. I think that's the future. This idea of us being the product and being naive and thinking that there's actually such thing as free Google, right? I think that's going to be over soon.
Well, are we ready for that? I mean, let's be honest here. That's a big responsibility for someone to take on. We have enough to manage in our day-to-day lives. You start to take on ownership of not only your own finances, your own banking, your own currency, but also your own data in general. I mean, are we ready for that as consumers?
Probably not.
Gary, I see. Yeah, James, throw me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably not. And change is ugly, and there's breakage, and it never goes smoothly. This is why education is the most important asset that we can share with people, with the community. And this is why governments spend so much time pushing out disinformation, and trying to delay this, because it's the last gasp of the old system trying to hold on, to how they build it. To quote, one of my favorite quotes from Traffic, is that the man with the tie just bought a new car with the profits he made off your dreams, right? And that's the system we have right now, and that's from the 1970s, right? And that's what's happening now. But that system, is morphing out, not tomorrow and not the day after, but that's where we're going to go.
Eventually.
Yeah.
But also, James, some of these services would not stand if they were paid. That's the issue. So eventually, we also need to look at it from that standpoint. They just would not stand.
Which is a different conversation that we'll hold on to for today, because that's a different good point, but a different conversation. Gary, to you, same question around: are we ready for this as consumers? This is a lot of responsibility to take on. Does artificial intelligence help us, or are we just kind of on our own?
Artificial intelligence always helps us. So if it's done the right
everyone hold on to your wallet.
Shh. Now, I mean, the situation is, we talk about building compassion and emotion. I've written several articles in Forbes about, changing it. It's about the nurturing and the training sets that you have. So on one side of it, we need to make sure that we're training the AI the right way. And in terms of, are we ready for this dramatic shift? It's going to change everything, right? It's going to be extremely disruptive, and, be careful what you ask for. People are so used to using Google. I'm not sure if it's going to make sense for a company like Google to exist in that kind of a new world. And who's going to have access to it? Is it only going to be premium customers and that's it? What happens to the rest of society? Now it's open for everybody. I wrote the article, Democratization of Opportunity, Nikola Tesla's Dream Comes True, and Forbes. And that's basically it. I mean, we've democratized it, but if we start, that's where it gets to be tough. How much is your data really worth? Is enough to sustain a company like a Facebook or a Google? Is it going to make sense? Well, we got to look at it. Or who's going to pay? Is it Google or the advertisers, or who's going to ultimately pay for it? And then how does a Google or a Facebook or a Twitter or whatever, how are they going to make money? And again, if we start to regulate it and start to do that, it may really, really create a lot of extremely explosively disruptive problems. And we got to be careful.
Look at commercial real estate today, right? I mean, we were told we needed an office. You needed all that furniture. We used to need like a video conferencing, a data service, telephony for $1 million in your office. And now you need an RJ45. And now it turns out in the last year, you don't even need an office, right? And we were told these things were needed. The same thing's going to happen with the items that Gary's turning. At some point, we're going to turn around and go, wait a minute, I never needed Chase, right? And so, I think that what happens is that, again, you don't realize what's happened until you look back at how it's happening.
Absolutely. And gentlemen, as we're coming close to the top of the hour, I want to come to each of you around areas of opportunity. Again, where should people be focusing, looking at this for the next 1, 3, 5 years? Where should I be placing my bets as an investor, and where should I be building as an entrepreneur? Where are those gaps that need to be filled here as we look at these industries of finance and fintech, to decentralization and blockchain, to payments and banking? Where are the opportunities? Adrian, let's start with you as well.
One idea I would like to finish with is that we are seeing that especially Bitcoin is how to say, detaching itself from the stock market. because the stock market is down these days. But look, it's possible that Bitcoin to break the $13,800 level, which will mean a lot for the people involved in trading Bitcoin. I'm looking at the business models in banking, in fintech, combining this new paradigm of digital money with the old paradigm of the regular money, and also to the business models tailored to the clients, if they are physical persons or companies, tailored to their needs. So in the center is the client. So the client is the king these days. So and of course to the models which proved to be pandemic proof, very important, a new layer for many businesses, if they are or are not pandemic proof, very important. Thank you very much for having me here. I mean, when
Whoa. We're not done yet.
No. I had the impression that it's closing.
How about CloudCoin? What's going on with CloudCoin? Come on.
Yeah. Wait. Hold the CloudCoin. Hold the where everyone can find you. We're not there yet, Adrian.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
I want to hear more about CloudCoin. I did my research last night, Adrian.
Yeah, we're coming back on that. Just a second, Adrian.
If you allow me 10 seconds, I wanted to use, and I did. I tried this a few minutes ago. My daughter was at school today like that. So I'm putting those to be in the spirit of Halloween.
I like it.
This was my daughter's gear today.
From the Adams family.
Yeah. Maybe like that. So CloudCoin is doing very well. It's on Bitcoin.com for the moment. Will be listed on other exchanges. I'm starting to do a weekly article and podcast about the pricing, the liquidity, and everything. We are figuring out the name for it. So we are working like crazy to build CloudCoin into a widely adopted global digital currency. The project is 3.5 years old. I'm very happy to answer any questions in private or over LinkedIn, and to cooperate in any way we can. The glasses were my wife's anyway. So
you stole your daughter's costume.
Yeah, you stole your daughter's costume and then your wife's glasses. All right, Adrian, we're gonna put you on pause for a minute, let you recoup. Gary, to you, areas of opportunity looking here in the head for founders and investors.
Yeah, so I mean, I talked about RPA, hyper-personalization, anything that's got to get the banks closer to the customers, AI, like truly machine learning, unsupervised AI, semi-supervised, ladder networks, anything that's going to increase the efficiencies, keep the touch points with the bank and the customer, and it's at the same time allowed to be done virtually and digitally. So digital banking, robotic process automation, any kind of technologies will help the bank process, and of course, cybersecurity. It's paramount that we protect. The more we get on digital, the greater the probability is that these banks are going to have some challenges. I know I about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, I had my identity stolen, and the stuff that they did was unprecedented. So you got to be very, very careful these days.
Absolutely. Thank you. Jose, to you, areas of opportunity.
So I would pick up exactly what Gary said. Cybersecurity, it's a real problem. I look at it at the bank the following way. That is that a bank is there to secure your cash. And either you pay their services or you pay a monthly fee so that they can take care of that. It's one way or the other. On the other hand, definitely artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data, robotization, not to forget that part. Okay, there will be a big impact. And I also believe strongly that everything that is a huge impact on the millennial society and generation, okay, that is massive, that can be addressed to them massively, that will be really big in the next 5 years, because they're taking over, they will make the decisions from now on.
And James, to you.
You know, I'm going to be consistent this week. You know, I think that you should stick to the things that you're passionate about, the things that catch your eye, the activities and the apps and the opportunities that draw your attention and are able to get you to habituate them into your daily activities. That, you know, you're probably pretty much like the rest of the people on the planet. And that if you start to see things that are attracting you, that's probably an area, and it represents a change, and they're able to change your habituation. They're probably having the same impact on other people. And so I think that you should be aware of the changes that are happening around you and look into it and be curious. And when you find those things that are having that demand pull on you, that creating that gravity, you know, do some research and see how you can get involved and put some money in there. I also think you should put about 5% of your liquid net worth into Bitcoin, just as a hedge. That, you know, if I'm wrong, 5% shouldn't have that big an impact on you in the long run. And if I'm right, you know, you'll be pretty happy. So I think you should just be aware that changes are happening, and that, you know, the U.S. dollar is going through some tumultuous times. And we have to see where that comes out over the next few years.
Absolutely. And then where can everyone find you online to continue the conversation as we come to wrap?
So I'm JF Haft on almost every social media platform out there, having been old enough to be there when they were formed. And I'm also james@palcapital.com. My company is palcapital.com, and you can always find me through the website. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, James. Jose, same to you. Where can everyone find you online to continue the conversation?
Well, the best way to find me is just pop into LinkedIn and search for Jose Grasa or for BizMoney, and immediately I will pop up. And that's the best way to get in touch with me. Thank you.
Adrian, to you. Where can everyone find you to continue the conversation?
For me, it's very simple. The Center Hub is LinkedIn. Adrian Niculescu, you can find me there. I'm very happy to help in any way I can, and happy to be here, and can't wait to come back. As a normal people, it's very difficult to be a ghost anyway. For a few minutes, it was very, very complicated. So I prefer to be like that in flesh.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And happy Halloween, everybody. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, everybody. But before we go, last but not least, Mr. Gary Fowler, where can everyone find you online to continue the conversation?
Yeah, sure. You can reach me and get me best ways through LinkedIn. So Gary Fowler, LinkedIn. You can check out GSD. I've got a couple of shows that I do. And I'm always looking for top startups from around the world. I showcase them to the top VCs every 2 weeks. So if there's anything interesting, please contact me. I'd be happy to talk about it. And you can just email me, gary@gsdvs.com. I'd be happy to hear from you. And it's great seeing you, Kyle. And also, I wish everybody happy Halloween and enjoy yourselves and stay safe.
Thank you very much. Thank you all so very much in general for all your thoughts and insights today. And audience, do definitely reach out to each and every one of our investors. As we mentioned earlier in the show, we are hearing from you. We are responding. Some of us might be a little slower than others, but don't take offense to that. Instead, just make sure you continue to follow up, add context where you met us, and definitely mention VCTV as well as a trigger of where we found each other. With that being said, a big thank you to you, our audience, for tuning in. If you like what you heard, click subscribe, give us a thumbs up. Do reach out if you'd like to be on a show today, like today's, like other investors, to share your thoughts and insights on different technologies, industries, and regions around the world. Thank you, Adrian. We'd love to have you. Do reach out to the team and or myself, and we'll find the right spot for you. With that being said, entrepreneurs, Gary mentioned it. He's got a great show. Thank you, Gary, that you should check out to be featured on. We also have a chance for you to be featured on here at VCTV. Do reach out to the team and or myself, and we'll find the right virtual stage and set of investors for you to share your product and company or service with us to get real-time feedback, build foundational relationships, and get great exposure to our live audience as well. Big thank you to the LATOKEN team, to Emmanuel, to Maria, and the full team for all they do to make VCTV possible every single day. With that, I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. You can find me everywhere online at Kyle Ellicott. We'll be back here next week with more VCTV. Happy holidays, everybody, and we'll see you soon.